One of the most common myths in the NFL is the existence of double coverage, or at least double coverage as people imagine it to be. A true number one receiver lined up outside with two DBs staring him down in man coverage, hell-bent on making anyone but that one receiver get the ball. It's an honor seemingly only reserved for the elite of the elite. Megatron, Julio, Jamar, or Jefferson, and to have a defense respect you and fear you that much to compromise the rest of their defensive structure just to stop you, I mean, that's gotta be a rare occurrence, right? Well, actually, yes, it is. In fact, it's so rare that it basically never happens. Like, ever. Over the last 5 seasons combined, per Pro Football Focus, the average rate of overall man coverage used in the NFL is only about 27% of defensive snaps. Conversely, that means 73% of the time, they're in zone. Now, the average use rate of cover 1, which is man coverage across the board with one single deep safety, is just 21.5%, meaning it's still a fairly common coverage on its own. But the average usage rate of what's called one double, meaning it's cover 1 with a dedicated double team on one receiver, that's just 0.33% of defensive snaps. 0.33%. That's basically a rounding error. So again, teams aren't just taking two DBs and parking them on a number 1 and saying, go stop that guy. That's not how teams take away a top passing threat. In fact, they're not really using man coverage at all for this. They're using zone coverage most of the time. But not just any kind of zone coverage. Today, you're going to learn about zone packages, which are, as the name implies, packages of 3 or sometimes even 4 coverages all rolled into one that are deployed based on where a chosen receiver is lined up. Our path today is going to take us through the philosophy of one of the biggest users of these zone coverage packages and one of the most influential defensive minds ever in Vic Fangio. And the man guiding us down that path is the most knowledgeable person I know on the ins and outs of this system, outside of the assistants on Fangio's staff itself, the great Coach Vass. Coach Vass, if you're not familiar with him, is a defensive consultant that's worked with top high school teams all the way up to top NFL programs. And I'm not 100% sure if I'm allowed to specify which ones for competitive purposes, but if you just look at the playoff brackets every year, you'll see some of them. Also, just so you know, for full transparency's sake, I initially did this interview with Vass about 2 years ago. Like, Fangio was still in Miami at the time. That's how long ago this was done. And there's a lot of reasons why this episode's taken so long to come out, but one of the main ones is that initially, and for quite a while after doing it, I didn't think that I could release a lot of the material from this interview without making some pretty substantial enemies within the NFL, mainly in the Dolphins building and then obviously later in the Eagles building, because this is detailed, to say the least.
I mean, I'm not giving away state secrets, but I'm also going to do something very informative.
Oh, we just gave away state secrets.
Whoops.
Sorry.
But now, 2 years later, I feel like we can finally get into all this, and quite frankly, I feel like I'm finally in a spot where I can do this episode justice and have it come out the way I had it in my head 2 years ago. So it's been a long time coming, to say the least. I think it's going to be a great show, and if you're Vic Fangio or anybody in the Eagles building and you see this, you're not allowed to be upset, okay? You won a Super Bowl. You're fine. Don't sue me. For everybody else, though, it's going to be a good show. So with that being said, let's get to it. We're going to build you up throughout this episode to understand how these zone packages work. But to do that, you need to understand the overall philosophy of Vic Fangio, as well as the rules for his individual coverage structures. And from that point, we can roll all of that knowledge together so that you can understand how zone packages work, as well as how his man packages work. And once you get all that, you basically understand how modern coverage works. Because believe me, the Eagles are not the only team that does this. They're just the best at it. There are 5 main zone match coverages that Fangio relies on, generally speaking, and these coverages are put into 3 different buckets. There's cover 9, which is just his version of cover 3 with a weak side rotation. And if you want more information on how those kinds of coverages work, I recently did a video specifically on that topic that I separated out from this one because this overall video was getting way too long. So after you watch this, you can go watch that, and it'll teach you even more about how this defense works. Next up, there is the quads bucket, which is just his version of quarters. And then you have bucket number 3, which is cover 6 and cover 8, our starting place for the day. And these two coverages are just mirror images of each other, either quarter, quarter, half, or conversely, half, quarter, quarter. And believe me, there is a difference. Notice how I did not include cover 2 in that rundown, and that's because, as Vast points out, Fangio basically never runs cover 2 across the board. Like, he pretty much doesn't do it at all.
So, like, Vic does not play 2 across the board. Nobody really plays 2 across the board unless it's Tampa or some sort of... And I can make a whole video on that, but just trust me on this. Let's just operate under the guise that nobody's playing 2 across the board.
And in fact, if you pull up the Eagles' numbers this year under Fangio, as of the time of me recording this, from nickel and dime personnel, he has not run cover 2 one time. Like, literally not a single time. He just doesn't do it. Fangio only uses a half-field safety on one side of the field, not on both sides. And he pairs that one half-field safety with quarters coverage on the other side, almost exclusively. That's what makes it half quarter quarter or quarter quarter half, depending on where the passing strength of the offensive formation is.
They just call that Roy Lou. So they didn't even have like they didn't even have an equivalent for like zone sub coverage. They used to call it wild, which is an old Ravens family call. Like, it goes back, but nobody really does that anymore.
If they call Roy or Lou, Roy right, Lou left, is that denoting where the half field safety is?
That is where the half side is going to be.
Okay. Gotcha.
I'm going to pause right there and explain what Vass is referring to with a Roy call and a Lou call. On the surface, it's fairly self-explanatory. Roy is an R word, so that means right, meaning a half-field safety, the cover 2 side of the coverage, is going to be lined up on the right while it's quarters to the left. Roy, right. Lou, conversely, means the half-field safety is to the left, because Lou is an L word. That means quarters is going to be on the right. Lou, left, Roy, right. Now, whether or not the defense is putting the half-field safety to the left or to the right is going to be determined by whether the call is cover 6 or cover 8. Cover 6 means it's quarters to the passing strength, and cover 2 to the weak side. The passing strength meaning where the majority of the offensive threats are lined up. Meanwhile, cover 8 means it's cover 2 to the passing strength, where the majority of threats are lined up, and it's quarters to the weak side. So procedurally speaking, let's just say the call is cover 8, meaning half quarter quarter, and the half-field safety needs to be on the passing strength of the offense. As that offense gets into their formation, let's just say the passing strength is on the offensive right, which is the defensive left. So on defense, because the cover 2 safety has to be on that strong side, everyone relays a Lou call to make sure the cover 2 side is to the left to match that passing strength. Then let's say a receiver motions across to make the other side the passing strength. Now the defense has to make a Roy call to flip the coverage to make sure they're still in cover 8 so that the cover 2 side of cover 8 is now on the right side. I sincerely hope to God all that made sense, because I know we're extremely deep in the weeds right now, but just trust me, all of this matters. As far as the mechanics for how the coverage itself works, once everyone's lined up correctly to run it and they make that Roy or Lou call, it's fairly self-explanatory. Now, our cover 6 explanation is going to be a lot shorter than our cover 8 explanation, because 6 is just the mirror image of 8. It's basically the same coverage, just flipped around. But there is one crucial note here, and it's that Vic Fangio refers to cover 6 as stuff. That is his term for 6. I don't know why he calls it stuff. I probably should have asked that at some point, but that's just what you need to know. Cover 6 equals stuff.
Answers. I think the stuff comes from they're stuffing the X receiver, is what they're calling it.
In stuff, or cover 6, the passing strength is where you play quarters, as we mentioned before, while the weak side is where you play the half-field safety. There's a lot of reasons why you might want to do this, like having a hard, flat player that can help against the screen game or in run support, or if you have a super rangy weak side safety that can both play that deep half or wheel around to the middle of the field and help out in that area if needed. But overall, you just need to know that 6 and 8 look similar on the surface. It's just because, again, they're flip-flopped. Our next stop on our little tour through the Fangio philosophy is quads, or what the rest of the football world calls quarters. But before we get into all that and kind of dive into what makes that work, I want you to ask yourself something. And I mean, genuinely ask yourself, are you sleeping okay? Because if you're not, it could be a couple different reasons why, right? Like, for one, maybe existential dread because of an increasingly powerful worldwide oligarchy that's draining the life from the middle and lower classes on the altar of capitalism in the name of boosting shareholder value. That's one of them. The other might just be an old bad mattress. I can only help with one of those. Years ago, I got a Bear mattress back when I lived in downtown. It's held up remarkably well, by the way, despite me moving multiple times since then with it. It got delivered right to my door, 32 floors up, no hassle. Setup was super easy once I got it out of the box. It's comfortable, it's been durable, it's fiberglass free. And if you want to check out the website yourself to see which mattress of theirs suits your body type and your sleep position, they do have a sleep quiz that helps match you to the best fit as well. And they also have a 120-night sleep trial period just to make sure you like it. Shipping is free on your order, and you get a lifetime warranty to boot. So if you want to try it out and see if it improves your sleep, go to bearmattress.com/Brett. Use promo code Brett. That's going to get you 40% off your mattress. Again, that is bearmattress.com/Brett. Promo code Brett for a 40% discount. Thank you once again to Bear Mattress for sponsoring today's show. And with that, let's not talk about the plight of the proletariat and instead go through quarters coverage, or quads, whatever Fangio calls it. It's a slightly happier topic. This is an example from just a few weeks ago in the Eagles-Commanders game. Washington starts out in a bunch look and then motions into a 2x2, which doesn't change the call at all that the Eagles are in, just the techniques that the players are playing within that call. And at its core, the reason why you call quads or any other kind of match quarters coverage is because it's really good at protecting the intermediate middle area of the defense. Both safeties are inside leveraged here, and they're playing inside leverage because they're responsible for the verticals of number 2 on each side, counting outside in. So if those number 2s go vertical, again, the safeties are on them. And they're slightly leveraged inside on those number 2s so that they can more easily break on benders into the seam or on any inside breaking routes. Now, at the same time, both outside corners are also responsible for the verticals or outs of the number 1 on each side, and the only time they're going to let these number 1s go is if they break inside and underneath immediately, in which case the nickel or the linebacker to their side is going to collect that shallow cross for them, and in exchange, if there's a threat to the flat that the nickel or the linebacker would normally handle, the corner will then pick that up for them, so everyone has better leverages to handle those individual threats. As a side note, these hook zone players are also responsible for walling inside and underneath if there's a quick break right at them underneath. But if there's not a quick under, they just simply get depth inside of that number 2 and essentially deliver that vertical of number 2 up to the safety. So again, it's about using leverage and space to constrain these throwing lanes and take away the easy stuff in the intermediate. Post-snap on the other side, there's only one vertical threat here to the field, so this safety can kind of feel things out now. He can either help this corner by driving on anything inside from this number 1, or they can range all the way back over to the middle and help out the other safety by doing the same thing. There's a bit of freedom built in here on the back end. Meanwhile, the nickel and the linebacker are supposed to communicate and exchange on this 2 and 3 to keep them covered up as well. Ultimately, Josh Johnson decided that his best bet was to try and attack Quinyon Mitchell, of all people, one-on-one, which obviously did not go well. So that's quarters, or quads, in this system. It's not really a coverage meant for stopping the deep ball, no matter what the Madden picture might imply. It's really meant to stop the intermediate passing game instead. Okay, so now you know what cover 6 is, or stuff, you know what cover 8 is, and you know what quads is. Together with cover 9, those are like the 4 horsemen of the Fangio defense. And by extension, a lot of other defenses around the NFL that are offshoots of the Fangio tree, which itself you could consider sort of an offshoot of the Rex Ryan tree, but that's a story for another day. Short version is he got a lot of stuff from Baltimore when he was there, but again, we'll save that for later. But now we get to the fun part, which is what I alluded to at the start of this show, which is Fangio has one coverage that kind of rolls all of these into one, a zone package coverage. And that coverage is called Zeus.
Zeus is its own call, and then they'll say like Zeus 82, and then they'll tell who to double. Like, so you mentioned Belichick's one double. When you put in one double, you put it in as a formation thing. You say we're gonna. In fact, Bam used to call it one double the slot, and then if it was 3x1, you doubled the X or whatever. And then you'd say, hey, let's one double 83 or one double. Like when Belichick puts it in, it's not just one, because you have to teach it in camp. So you have to teach the mechanics. Yeah. Well, Zeus is like that, except the mechanics are taught in the other coverages. So when they install stuff, they teach quads 4, stuff 6, and Roy Lou, which is 8, half, quarter. They don't teach it as its own thing. So let's go through the rules. Zeus, If the receiver is outside as the number one receiver, it's Roy Liu to that side. The call for cover
To the
two.
passing strength or to the weak side?
To the person.
So regardless of side.
Regardless of side. Because
interesting.
if you want to do it to the passing strength, that's cover 8. If you want to do it away, that's stuff. But what happens when you get a receiver that moves all around and then does different things? They're saying, okay, we're calling Zeus and then the number. Okay. So if he's the number one receiver outside, either side, it's Roy Liu to that side. If the jersey number is inside at the 2, or if it's trips to 3, then they call quads, cover 4. And then the side away from the jersey number is quads. When you strip it all away, the final coverage will be stuff, 6, 8, or quads based on the jersey number location.
Interesting. So it's just their way of always, and you talk to any receiver, like their most hated thing is cloud corner with a safety over the top because they feel like they just can't go anywhere. So this is their way of just either getting a cloud corner outside to the number one threat, regardless of the side that he's on, regardless of how many receiving threats there are.
If he's outside.
If he's outside. And inside, this is still their way of getting it in and out on him so that he just doesn't have room to work. And any yardage he gets is going to be very well earned.
While we're on the subject of talking about Zeus, by the way, there is a fairly substantial wrinkle to this Zeus package, and that wrinkle, which also gets a lot of use in this defense, is called Lord.
Zeus is a fantastic concept, but every call has a flaw, every call has a weakness. There is no perfect call. One of the issues with quads, 2 trips, is you can occupy the corner, right? And then you can buy space on corner routes, like think about quarters. Your safety has to play inside and vertical, so you stick your a dud out at 1, so your safety has to go inside. You cannot play. You can change leverages on certain coverages. You cannot change leverage quarters. You have to play inside. So they occupy the corner and create a bunch of space. Or let's say you're playing a team and they like to throw deep outs. So again, they're running away from the leverage. They inside stem, get the safety on his heels, back up, lean in, break out, and now there's a huge ass space on the sideline to throw. And now you want the corner to come off and help you. You go to Lord.
So in a normal Zeus call, let's say it's Zeus 15 here as the call, it's 2nd and 10, 2 minutes left in the game, Chargers down by 3. They need a drive here and the Eagles know it. So their first goal as a defense is to take away number 15, Ladd McConkey, Zeus 15. In Zeus, as we went over before, if the target number is inside, you're playing quads to both sides. But the problem is, you know that Ladd McConkey is perfectly capable of punishing that inside leverage from the safety to break on a deep out. And you know for damn sure that Herbert is capable of making that throw. So you don't really want to play quads here. What you actually want to play is Roy or Liu, meaning cover 8, which really means cover 2 to the call side, quads away. I know I'm repeating myself a lot here on terminology. I'm just really trying to get these word associations to stick, so I apologize for that. But a Lord call means that if the receiver is inside, you play Roy Liu to that side, not quads like you would in a normal Zeus call. So how that plays out is you have Cooper DeJean playing this vertical from inside leverage and he's carrying it all the way, so you still have someone to stop any benders here, while the safety is getting depth and outside leverage as that deep half player. So if McConkey snaps this route off outside, away from Cooper DeJean's leverage, the safety can still break on it from above. And you also have the corner sinking as well, and he can play it from below. So in effect, because of that Lord call, you're making a 3-on-2 triangle here with that Roy Liu that gives you way better leverage than what you would normally get from quads. And on the other side, which is still quads, you still have this safety crashing down on the number 3 coming across, and this corner is handling this number 1 backside in man. Herbert lets this throw go because he doesn't really have any good options here at all with optimal leverage, and DeJean gets the PBU. This is exactly how you draw it up.
Now, what I noticed, Brett, was that he was going more towards Lord towards the end. And again, it could have been because people figured out Zeus, or maybe people, just by chance, that people were running different routes. But you got Tyreek at the 3. You can see them building the box around him. Look at this.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, But look at the distribution. There's a triangle around him.
It's just no space.
Now, here's where I really get to break your brain. Every single zone match coverage that we've been over so far today, including the Zeus call, which is one coverage that has multiple coverages within it, again, situationally speaking, all of those have a man match equivalent in this defense. So for every kind of zone coverage you've seen, there is a man match equivalent, including a man match equivalent of the Zeus package. The man version of that package, which is multiple different types of man coverage rolled into one, is called the hands package. You will quickly understand why.
All right, so we talked about zone match versus man match. So I want to talk about this real quick. So far we have quads, /4, stuff, /6, 8, and then Zeus or Lord, and then the Roy Luke calls in there. And as I mentioned earlier, the man match concepts mirror the zone. So there are man match versions of 2, 4, 6, and 8. And then you get to the variations where the jersey number is.
I'll go through these as quickly as possible because these coverages are very basic and they kind of teach themselves. Man match cover 2 is called fist. Everyone is playing man coverage underneath with trail technique from inside leverage. So they're playing underneath the receivers to stop things like curls, digs, overs, etc. And there are 2 safeties over the top and outside, providing an umbrella from over top to protect all those DBs in trail from the deep ball, and especially deep outbreaking things like sail routes. Now, similarly, man match quads is called pounder. As Vass puts it, whoever came up with that name must really like McDonald's because quads is quarters and the man version is pounder. Quarter, pounder. Yes, it really is that simple sometimes. Now, in pounder, again, everyone is in trail technique with 2 deep safeties, but the key difference here is that everyone in man is in outside leverage now, not inside leverage, while the safeties are playing inside leverage as if they would in quads. So the leverages are switched around here. The man defenders playing outside are effectively funneling routes inside to the safeties, which then creates kind of inside-out brackets on these receivers. Next up, we have man match cover 8, which is called finger. That means it's man match cover 2 on one side and man match quads on the other. So fist to one side, pounder to the other. Meanwhile, the mirror image of cover 8 in zone is cover 6, so the man match version of cover 6 is known as ring. Again, ring, finger, they go together. Ring is the opposite of finger in that it's pounder or man match quads to the passing strength, and fist or man match cover 2 to the weak side. Just like their zone counterparts, they are yin and yang to each other.
But you might say, well, let's talk about this philosophically besides, okay, well, they just stay man to man. And you may say, well, when would you want to do these things? Like, why not play man match all the time? We already talked about it's not good versus the run. If they're running a bunch of switch routes, play zone because you're not getting just straight verticals. But if they're throwing a lot of verticals, then you just want to play man match because if you play quads, and this is where you may need like a fancy graphic to pop it or whatever, but quads, four verts with a back staying in is 4 on 4. So it's cover 0 with a 4-man pass rush. Not great. But it is great if you're getting combination routes and you need guys to help. Okay, this guy's going to disappear and I'm going to help. But if you're getting verts, just play pounder. Play 6 on 4 deep.
So is Knuckles a combo call of ring and finger based on jersey number position? Is that how that works?
Or pounder. So it's Zeus. It's just the man version.
If you did understand the Zeus call earlier, then you're definitely going to understand the Knuckles call. It just combines all of these man match coverages into one based on alignment. If the receiver you're game planning against is lined up outside, the call is fist to his side, so you get that half-field safety over the top, and then, of course, pounder away, and that then basically translates into being the equivalent of finger or ring. But again, they're not calling finger or ring because the call is to a man, not to a side. It just looks exactly the same on film, so opposing teams can't really tell the difference. And then conversely, if that chosen receiver is lined up inside, a Knuckles call would translate into just playing pounder to both sides. So it would just be man match quads. Again, opposing teams would have no idea what the difference is. They would just think it's Fangio calling man match quads in a certain situation, all the while not knowing that the real call was Knuckles to take away that receiver, and that one of the mechanisms within Knuckles was man match quads. That's what makes Fangio so difficult to game plan against. As an offense, you have no idea when he's calling the coverage to call the coverage, or when he's just designating a certain receiver that's going to determine the coverage. It all looks the same, so you can never get any sort of good tendency data from the film.
This is Knuckles 17, so this is the Devontae Adams. He's number 3. He's now on the ball. You got a tight number 1. So you really gain this backside safety to be wherever. Remember, it's quarters over here. And why do you do this? This is a really common concept, is because really you're playing 4 over 2. You're playing one-on-one here. He's got a cut split, so the only thing he's going to be able to do is run across. Now look at the man alignments. That's a tight end. That's Roquan on a tight end. So there you go. And I know I'm being reductionist here, but here's your box, right?
But they're thinking it's 2-man just based on alignment, but it's not.
Right. So if they try to run digs and shit, you can clamp down on it. Stuff and Zeus and Lord and all this stuff, when you all strip it away, it's either 2 or 4. 6 and 8 are just combinations. So if you cut everything in half, and that's how they teach this.
Now, I do want to throw out a little caveat here. There are mechanisms in the Fangio defense to do like a true hard double team on a certain receiver, right? Belichick calls it one double jersey number, because whatever the jersey number of the guy is, you call one double. Everybody's man across the board, that guy gets a hard double team. Like, yeah, that does exist, but again, it is used so incredibly rarely. The vast majority of the time, if Fangio wants to take a certain receiver out of the game, he's either going to use a zone package, right, like Zeus, where it can be either cover 6 stuff or cover 8 or quads on a whim, depending on where that guy's lined up, or he's going to use the hands package, which can be either 2-man or 4-man on a whim, depending on where that guy's lined up. Those are how he takes out number 1 receivers. He doesn't call one double, and nobody really calls one double. Most defenses have some kind of version of this. It's zone coverages game planned based on alignment of whatever guy they don't want to beat them.
But let's say if he's aligned outside, we want to play 2 to that side, 2-man to that side. So we're going to play fist that side. Okay? If he aligns inside, we want to play bracket. So we're going to play quads or whatever. Which sounds like Knuckles so far. But all of a sudden, if he's a 3, he likes to run those crossers or those whole things. Now we want to go whole jersey number. So now you just build whatever you want. Remember how I said, like, if they want to throw the post behind. So let's say for whatever reason, they put him at 3. And when he's at 3, he's always going to run a bender and then a post behind it. What's the best coverage for that? Whole jersey number or one hole. It doesn't have to be a whole jersey number, just be one hole. So now you have the bender taken care of. You have 2 guys on the bender and 2 guys on the post of 2. And so that is how you game plan.
There is a reason why it always seems like Fangio secondaries never get out leveraged and never get outnumbered. And that's because he gives his DBs all of these kinds of tools to make sure they never get out leveraged or outnumbered. And that goes double against number 1 receiving threats. Adaptability and flexibility in coverage are the brick and mortar that keep this whole building standing. Sure, it helps to have great linebackers and obviously great defensive linemen too. They always set the tone. But the real secret sauce for turning a good defense into an elite one is a secondary that plays fast and plays together. You either have it or you don't, and you're going to feel the difference either way. I am on hour number 3 of recording this as I check the time, and also glass number 4. So I can only assume this thing is becoming a little bit of a monster. That means I appreciate if you're still here, because this video is probably very long, very dense, maybe too dense in some areas, but again, a lot of these concepts are really important to know if you want to understand modern defensive football. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to sit here with me while we went through all this. And even more importantly, I appreciate Coach Vass for making it possible. I think he is one of the pillars that all football content creation is built upon, whether you realize it or not. All of us go to him with questions, and he has been so gracious with his time over the last, I've known him for years at this point, but he's an incredible person and a really, really damn good coach. He also runs a podcast called the Make Defense Great Again podcast. He's had that for years, and it's an invaluable resource. He has an amazing Patreon as well. Go support Coach Vass. He's an amazing person and just as an amazing a coach. I'll say that. So thank you once again, Coach, if you see this. Thank you to all of you for watching, and I'll be back next week with ideally something a lot less complicated. Please, God, let it be less complicated. All right. I'll see you then.